Hey there, sports fans. My name is Professor S, and today we're talking World War I. This is Hasty History. Now, historians all basically agree that it's the killing of Archduke Franz Ferdinand that really kicks off World War I. But what is it about the death of one guy that can kick off a whole war? What is it about Europe at the time that has everybody so on edge? See, at the beginning of the 20th century, all of Europe is focused on really three things at a minimum: militarism, imperialism, and nationalism. So we've got all of Europe beefing up their armies, taking over smaller countries, and being pretty proud of themselves for doing it. This makes the whole continent a hotbed of political activity. So in 1914, Austro-Hungarian Archduke Franz Ferdinand is assassinated in Bosnia by Serbian terrorists. See, the Austro-Hungarian Empire had occupied and then annexed Bosnia. Serbia wished they had done that for themselves. They wanted Bosnia. So their Archduke gets killed, and Austria-Hungary's pretty mad. They call up Germany, because these two have had a long-standing alliance. They say, hey Germany, you want to fight a war with us? Germany says, yeah, we're in, let's do it. These two come together and form the Central Powers. Now Serbia doesn't want to have to fight this war on their own. They call up their long-standing ally, Russia. They light up the Borscht signal, and Russia says, yeah, let's do it, we'll help you. So the Central Powers start marching west. They make it through Luxembourg and they make it through Belgium, and they start to invade France. As you can probably imagine, France doesn't really like being invaded. Britain also doesn't like France being invaded because it means the Central Powers are getting that much closer to Great Britain. So France and Britain join up with Serbia and Russia, and together they form the Allies. There's some fighting that goes on in Eastern Europe along what historians call the Eastern Front, but most of the heavy stuff in World War I takes place in France along what's called the Western Front. The fighting along the Western Front is characterized by trench warfare, which is exactly how it sounds. Soldiers on both sides dig big trenches, and they shoot at each other from inside the trenches. So as you can imagine, most of the big military advancements in World War I have to do with how to stop soldiers in trenches from shooting at you. World War I sees the first introduction of tanks widespread in combat and chemical warfare, specifically gas warfare. World War I also sees the early combat use of submarines, aircraft carriers, and planes designed specifically for combat. So all the way up to 1917, the United States of America has been neutral in the war, but there are two big things that pull them into it: German submarine warfare and the Zimmermann telegram. See, by this time, Germany's tired of the stalemate along the Western Front. They're tired of all the trench warfare. So they call up US President Woodrow Wilson. They say, hey, Woodrow, you're neutral. Would you mind mediating some peace talks for us? Wilson says, sure, let's do it. Now, the peace talks don't really go anywhere, but Woodrow Wilson does say this: okay, Germany, we're going to stay out of the war as long as you don't use unrestricted submarine warfare against our civilian ships. Germany hears this, they say, okay, sure, no problem. But then they go off and they do it anyway. They start using unrestricted submarine warfare against American civilian ships. So it's around this time that Germany also sends the Zimmermann telegram. And this is a telegram they send to Mexico, which basically says, hey Mexico, you attack the US from the south and you'll have the full support of the Central Powers. Now, problem is this: Britain intercepts and decodes the Zimmermann telegram. When the US reads it, they realize, okay, if this is the way it's going to be, we might as well just get into the war. So they do. They decide they're going to stop riding the pine and they're going to get into the game. And they do it because they're going to try and end militarism once and for all. So Germany knows that they've got to end the war before the US can get too involved, because they know America can bring in the big guns. So Germany launches the Spring Offensive of 1918, and this actually works really well. The problem is this: Germany can't hold any of the ground that they managed to gain. So the Allies counterattack with the 100 Days Offensive. This is where British and French troops manage to push back German lines in a big way. Now, because the US has passed the Selective Service Act of 1917, they're able to send thousands of troops every day into Europe. Because of the success with the 100 Days Offensive and all the reinforcements showing up, Allied morale is going through the roof. At the same time, morale in Central Powers is just plummeting. Germany has supply problems, they've got political problems at home, money problems, troop problems, they've got soldiers defecting right and left, dogs and cats living together. They can see the writing on the wall, and they know it's time to call it quits. So Germany basically hits redial. They call up President Woodrow Wilson and they say, okay, let's talk peace. President Wilson says, all right, we'll listen, but we're not okay with the whole German Empire thing anymore. You have to reform as a democracy. So they do. Germany reforms as the Weimar Republic. The official name for this was the German Reich. So an armistice is reached at 11 a.m. on November the 11th, 1918. In 1919, all the world leaders come back together for the Paris Peace Conference. Woodrow Wilson brings his 14 points, and everybody comes back together to write the Treaty of Versailles. This is the treaty that officially ends World War I. With the war officially over, let's talk aftermath. The Ottoman Empire is gone. The Austro-Hungarian Empire is gone. The German Empire is gone, reformed as the Weimar Republic. The Russian Empire is gone, reformed as the Soviet Russian Republic. And this was because of the Russian Revolution of 1917. Now, if the Treaty of Versailles sounds a little bit familiar to you, that's because it plays a huge role in the sequel to World War I, World War II. But we're out of time. I've been Professor S, this has been World War I, this has been Hasty History, and you stay hasty, my friends.